Without further ado, I am going to bring on our guest, who is someone who has been really inspirational to me for the last couple of months. Welcome, Amy.
Hi. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful to have you, Amy. So I'm going to introduce a little bit of Amy's backstory, and then I'll ask her a couple of questions. Feel free to ask questions as we go along. Okay, so prior to May 2020, Amy was promoted to account executive at Hello California Destination Management. A career event manager, Amy has studied hospitality management in Boston and has been working in this field for a decade, and even organizing school events to weddings to corporate events. And she's always been a trusted pair of hands. And then along came COVID-19. And then everything changed. So Amy, when did you first hear about COVID? And did you consider then that this could affect you?
So I first heard about COVID in the middle of a very large event that I was running, probably to date one of the most stressful experiences I'd had. But it was running, everything was going really smooth. But it was just during the last final planning days that we start to hear some of the sponsors had pulled the people they were going to send. They had to rely on the local office rather than their corporate office folks to come in and do their sponsorships. So we started hearing things were brewing, and it was a little bit of a concern for the conference hosts, but we ran everything in typical conference fashion. There was lots of sanitizer stations anyway, so everyone was still kind of business as usual. But we were starting to see some cancellations roll in the office. And that was the very first week of March. And probably a week later, that's when everything came to light. And we were definitely all pretty worried right from the start. We weren't sure what was going to happen. We started to see all of our big hits in the office postponing or talking about canceling. And I'm not part of those bigger discussions in my role, but there was definitely a little bit of concern at the time.
Yeah. And what point did the company decide to place you in furlough?
So we were actually still held on for about 2 months, which we're very fortunate for. We were working on some bigger picture projects just so we could come back ready to go as an office. We really pride ourselves on our product and how we present that to clients. So we were really training and honing in on those processes since we had the time to do so. And so it was about May when I was placed on furlough.
Okay. And did you think it would be short term? Like, what did you think about it at the time?
I don't think anyone really knew for sure, obviously. But I thought, 2-3 months at first. We had no idea. We've never experienced anything like this, at least in my lifetime. So we were kind of just going on what we would hear on the news, and every day was different. I remember day to day just not knowing what to expect. And we still don't know. So it's been a process.
Yeah, it's really interesting how people have tried to adapt over this time as well. So I met you in a digital social networking group. So this was a group of something like thousands. I think it was 20,000 people.
Yeah.
And you asked at the time, how come no one is talking about people on furlough, right? And I remember the admins didn't answer. And we started talking. But what changed for you at that point when you reached out in that group?
I think at that point, I just was accepting that this was going to be a long-term thing, and that as much as my managers and our corporate offices were wanting to keep us, I know genuinely they tried so hard to keep us on as long as possible that we just didn't know when we would be back. And so, as optimistic as I am, I finally just got to the point where I just didn't know what I was supposed to do anymore. nobody was really talking about being on furlough, even though our entire industry got wiped immediately. Hotels were probably the very first to go. And all of us were just at home. Some people were going to the beach every day, and um, everyone was doing their own thing, just assuming we'd be back. And I wasn't sure that that was going to happen, and we still don't know what's going to happen in the grand scheme of things. So for me, I just thought, well, why haven't I heard anyone talking about this? Probably because it's quite sensitive. When you're on furlough, you want to be able to go back to your job if they ask you. I'm a very loyal person, and I absolutely love the company that I worked for. And I still would go back. I would love to go back, but we don't know what's going to happen. And so for me, I had this internal battle of, well, how do I go on LinkedIn and post that I'm job searching, or are they going to not ask me back, or how does this work? Like, what is everyone else thinking? And so that's really where that post came from. It was a fork in the road, not sure how to proceed. So yeah.
Yeah, and I remember we talked through a few different options. What made you convinced that you could start your own business?
Probably a good nudge from you. So we had started working together and as my coach, and really I had no idea that what virtual assisting was or that it existed. And I've always wanted to start a business. I just never knew what that would be. I never knew what I would be the expert in, or what I always thought I had to do all these years and years of event planning experience before I could ever open my own business in that capacity. So I don't know, you introduced me to the whole field, and um, I just thought I love to learn. I learn by doing, and I'm also on social media every single day anyway. And that stuff's easy for me to learn and pick up quickly. So I've self-trained myself on a lot, as far as Facebook group operating and all of that stuff goes, and managing social media. And I just know that I can learn anything that I put my mind to, and I'm quick. And with this business, it's all about clients and relationships and how can I support you. And that's like at the root of what I love doing, with weddings, with corporate. If there was an idea, I would do what I could to make it happen. And so I just thought I can do this, and here we are.
No, absolutely. And I think the skills in event management are very, very transferable to digital skills, right?
Mhm.
It is about people. It's ultimately about people, and
Yeah.
that's what you understand the best.
Mhm.
So that's really encouraging. So, and tell us about how long it took to set up the business and like what you had to go through, because maybe there are a lot of people who are thinking, should I do this? Should I not do this? How long did it take you to set up?
So coming from a summer of unemployment or furlough, getting into the process of working in any capacity again was quite slow for me. So the actual building of the business easily could be done maybe in a week or two. Um, with the legality of setting up your license or your business tax certificate and setting up your bank account and all of that, it can pretty much be knocked out in probably a week or two, depending on the nature of how you set up the business. I've gone for the most simple setup as possible for now, and I can build it over time as I learn more. Um, but I would say that stuff can get knocked out pretty quickly. I personally have dragged it out over a bit of time, just as I'm adjusting to work from home again and working for myself, which is totally new. Um, so yeah, it's been a little bit of a slower process, but I'm still doing it on my time because I want to make sure that everything is reflective of me. So that's been part of the slow part too.
So Ludwig wants to know, what business do you have? So tell Ludwig about what you do.
Sure. So I am a virtual assistant. So I specialize in social media management, customer service, organizational and operational processes. So project management, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Um, and so we have another question. What will be your advice for those in a complicated situation who are maybe not seeing the light at the end of the tunnel? So maybe some people who are maybe already made redundant.
Mhm. That's a great question. I would just say that now is a time of reflection, especially in the events industry, but in general, we're all so busy all the time that when we're working nonstop, we don't think about ourselves and are we actually happy doing this job that's 50 to 60 hours a week? I loved it. I loved everything that I did, but I didn't stop and think sometimes. It was get home, go to bed, get up and get ready for the next day and hope I have a power bar to eat at lunch because I might be on the run. So we're so busy that we have this time to slow down and think and reflect on what we want to do with our lives. And I think that if I've learned anything over the past couple of years, it's that everything can be temporary in a way. So you can always try, and then you can always try again, or you can always edit and try again. I moved across the country, for example. What? I didn't know anyone, and I did it. And my friends were like, "You don't have a job?" I said, "No, I'll figure it out when I get there." Because at the time I was transitioning out of weddings, and I needed a mental break. But I had taken that time to really think about what I wanted to do. And when I was ready, I put my feelers out with my network and I found the destination management company and I loved it. So really taking the time to think about what you love and then using this time to research what's out there. And if you're in the events industry, just keep on trying with the job searching. I can tell from experience that every job has gotten 200 plus applicants, but events will come back eventually. It's going to look a little bit different as we streamline back into it. So um, I guess for those not seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, just hang in there and really use this time to make sure you know exactly what you want to do and don't do what unpopular opinion, what your parents tell you should do, or your professors in college say. You should be an accountant because you'll make a lot of money or whatever. Just I think we have one life and we should build our life out to be what we want it to be. So use this time to take that opportunity and do that for yourself. You're in control of
A very wise words, Amy. So I think everybody who owns a business, me included, you go through a period of how do you get customers. So tell us about, and I think in your case, it's pretty unique. So tell us about how you went about getting customers.
So I don't have a ton, but I have enough, and I love them so far. So one starter thing that I've been doing that I've learned a lot with is helping admin for a Facebook group called Collectively Driven that you're also a part of. And it's been an amazing experience. This has really been something that I decided to volunteer for because I can learn all the back end of the Facebook group. So that's been amazing for learning, but also it's a Facebook group of driven female entrepreneurs who have all these ideas and are so, so smart and passionate. So it's really uplifting to share with each other and have a safe space to answer questions, but also we can come to each other if we know someone that needs their service. And so it's good exposure for me as also being a learning experience and something that I enjoy. So that's been really great. And actually, networking is the other thing. So I miss networking in person, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I've taken to LinkedIn to reach out to folks that might be doing what I think I might want to do or are doing exactly what I know I might want to do. So randomly one morning, I reached out to someone on LinkedIn who's in the music industry. And that's always something I've thought about doing for events, moving over to maybe festivals or something to do with the logistics of concerts and tour management, just something I've always thought about. So I reached out to her and I said, "Hey, I'd love to chat with you for 15 minutes, just learn about what you do. Do you have time?" She said, "Yeah, great." We ended up talking for an hour. And now I'm working with her and her client on his social media. So just randomly me reaching out led to an opportunity for me to work with them and get a little bit of insight on what they do and what she does as his manager. So that's really been interesting so far.
Yeah, that's cool, and I think it's quite important that personal touch with your network, which you already developed because of your work in the event industry.
Hmm.
So it's quite important.
Yeah.
That's really great. So I guess the final thing I would ask, and Johanna's kind of covered a bit of it already, but um, how would you advise people to manage this furlough period, this transition? Like, do you believe that people should really go out there and get jobs, or do you believe that they should, wait on their companies? What's your recommendation?
Oh gosh, no pressure, because that's a big question. I think that this time should again be spent reflecting on what you're doing, what you want to do, and take the time to make steps to get there. Even if you are holding out for your job and you know they're going to call you back on X date, that's amazing, first of all. I think the grass is always greener for everyone right now because the folks that are still working full time by chance wish they could be on the beach, right? So the grass is always greener in a way right now. But I think that you could look for jobs if you're not, if you want to continue learning. I don't have the end all be all answer, but learning in general right now is going to show that you value what you are doing. If you are staying with a company, if you know your job's coming back, you're only going to be more valuable to them. So there's a lot of free webinars out there, LinkedIn Learning. If you want to invest in that, there's so many resources out there to continue learning. And I think that that's key. In the events industry, you can be pursuing your CMP, your certified meeting professional, um, different things like that. I think learning and reflecting right now is the best thing to do. And if it feels right for you to job search, that's great. If you have a job, you probably should stay in it, but that's just my 2 cents. I don't know.
Thank you very much, Amy. So Amy is actually going to be helping me launch the next strategic career transitions course in
Mhm.
January. So this is going to be her first big VA project where she's going to help me end to end with that launch. So I'm really have you on the team. I've already seen your work in Collectively Driven, and I'm really impressed with what you do and how you do it, and the sort of passion you put into your work. So I think we found each other at a perfect time. So
Definitely.
we have another comment from Ludwig.
Um, sure. If I could do it over, I probably would have started sooner, I guess. Um, I can be guilty of being very just loyal, and I think that I let that set in too long. I think I again love the company that I worked for. Again, if they asked me back, I would heavily consider it. But for now, I want to take this and run with it. And the only thing I lost was time. But at the same time, that was time spent reflecting and learning. So I needed that. So if I could do it over again, I guess I could start earlier. Um, I don't know. I don't
Great question.
know.
All right, so thank you very much, everyone, for joining us, and thank you, Amy, for sharing your story with us. And I believe your page is live now.
Yes, yes. My Facebook page is live. It's a work in progress, everything to build it all, but it's been fun so far.
All right, so where can they find you?
On Facebook, you can search my name and you'll find my Facebook page. So Amy Sleeper. And yeah, if you need me, you can contact me there. And my email address is there as well.
Okay, perfect. All right, so thank you very much for joining us today, everyone. And next week, we have another exciting guest who will come in and talk to you about being brave and speaking up. So it's a speaking coach. So I will see you all next week. And thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye.